Y'all planning for this?
When I surge, you surge, we surge. We can't stop talking enough about surge. Welcome back, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. And it was brought to my attention by our podcast curator that our most wildly popular episodes are centered around the conversation around surge. This is where thousands, tens of thousands of downloads happen because everyone in the financial advisor community has questions about implementing surge. And we've been surging for decades now at Shalansky & Associates, RRA up in Anchorage, Alaska. My mom and dad, Mike is my baby brother. So if you listen to his voice alongside Matthew Jarvis, that's the relationship there. But our mom and dad started our advisory firm back in 1981. And at that time, you pretty much took an appointment with anyone who was willing to, we called it the fog the mirror test. If they could fog a mirror, they might be an ideal client, get them in. And that was a high value proposition for us at the time because it takes money to operate a business. It takes money to hire staff. And to this day, one of the things that makes me so incredibly effective as a CFO in some other organizations is that I take to heart when I walk through those doors, when I look at a company's business, I am immediately concentrated on the fact that my responsibility is to make sure that every single employee has a paycheck at the end of the day. That is my driving force, is to make sure that the person that is the janitor, that is the receptionist, that is the ops person, the relationship manager, financial advisor, I want to make sure that they have a paycheck at the end of the day. Across all the organizations that I help out with as a financial advisor, I never, ever screw around with somebody's pay. It is absolutely sacrilegious to me to do that. It is a hard rule with any accounting firm that I work with, and I drive this point home, that employees are well compensated and they are paid on time, period, end of sentence. Now, being well compensated doesn't mean that you're making more than you're worth. You have to make what you're worth, but it does mean that we don't monkey around with getting payments out. I keep a steady schedule across the board. So back in the 80s and 90s, as my mom and dad were building out this practice, that was also one of their driving concerns was, how do you keep these lights on? Because you're supposed to be targeting affluent clients. You're supposed to be working with high income people, but you don't have two pennies to rub together. You are trying desperately, maxing out credit cards, trying every marketing different program out there, listening to every business coach telling you that you need to hire personnel. And your greatest fear is, how am I going to make payroll? How can I afford to do that? So if you've had struggles and questions like that, that's one of the reasons that we offer memberships at the Perfect RIA, is because people don't talk about this. They don't talk about these real, honest, earnest conversations that business owners, because as advisory offices, that's what we are. We're business owners, have to take into consideration. So if you want more information on that particular subject, make sure you reach out to us at lifestyletheperfectria.com. We'll talk to you about the different memberships. We have two different programs. One of it is a do-it-yourself program. I just want the information. I just want the processes. I just want to be able to apply it and put my head down and go. And the other one is the people that want to put their money where their mouth is. They want the team coaching. They want to be invited to masterminds. They want to level up their business. So we offer two of those programs, but long before we had those programs, my dad would travel across the United States whenever he could, and he would hire all different kinds of coaches. And back in the day, he hired Dan Sullivan, and he talked about strategic days, focus days, and buffer days. And that rattles off of my tongue so quickly because of how frequently my dad had that conversation about strategic, buffer, and focus days. And he was so pumped up about this that it was such a great way to manipulate. And today, talking about time blocking is a really powerful conversation, but it's also a common one. It's a common one where everyone is kind of focused on highest and best use at different intervals of the day. And as they sort of develop those hacks, a lot of these principles that they're talking about, they've been around for decades, just not wildly popular. But I think social media, the internet, and the expansion of entrepreneurs in this country, because we live in the greatest country in the world, where it is so flipping easy to start a business, to open up your doors and to become an entrepreneur, or to join an enterprise office and develop a company together. But back in the day, he had these 3 time blocks, strategic, focus, and buffer days. And he would sit there with his calendar and he would back in. And this is the business part of him. And this is a really beautiful part of any of us Shalansky kids, is how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? So when we have super daunting numbers in front of us, we just back into the math. So we start at the end in mind. So for example, my son just took on a massive project. And in that project, he has about 6 weeks of time to complete 400 different cases. And in those 400 different cases, he's like, wow, in 6 weeks, that's a lot. And he goes, hold on a second. Okay, if I've got 6 weeks to do this, and he starts dividing the numbers up by 6, or by the 6 weeks he has, he's like, I want to work 5 days a week. I want to not work the weekends. Okay, boom, 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 boom. I'm going to get 5 done a day. If I get 5 done a day, then I've achieved that goal. So all of a sudden, this 400 number becomes really realistic when we're talking about 5 single things a day to do. And so my father started off with that in his mind, said, okay, I want to make this much revenue. If I want to make this much revenue at the end of the day, then I need to have this many clients. If I need to have this many clients, I need to have this many prospects. If I have this many prospects and clients, then I need this many appointments. And then we looked at the calendar, and for the longest time, we did quarterly appointments because that's what fit the model for financial advisors. Now, since we've adapted outside of quarterly appointments because they no longer fit the need of the client. Instead, we do surge. But at that time, when it was strategic and buffer and focus, my dad would divide that calendar up by the quarter and say, boom, put me in these strategy days, and these focus days, these buffer days. Now, what is the difference? Strategy and focus and buffer. Those are the types of work that you're doing. That buffer day is sort of that free time, and you're either catching up on things you didn't get done or you're refilling your cup. And it's really up to you how you manipulate and use those. Well, a couple decades ago, we decided to put a little hyperspin on that strategic buffer and focus, and we developed something called Surge. Now, today, this term is wildly popular, but prior to the Shalanskys putting it into implementation in their office, it wasn't around. It wasn't a concept. Every financial advisor was meeting with their clients on a quarterly basis. Why quarterly? Because that's when clients got statements. You wanted to have a meeting either when they got their statement in the mail or prior to them getting their statement in the mail. And you wanted to reinforce the value, talk about allocation asset. And yes, if you're being 100% transparent, you also knew the client was going to see the fees and they were going to see the market performance. So you wanted to make sure you got in front of that and had that conversation at that time. Now, as we developed a couple decades ago, Surge, what we decided was with the emergence of electronic information, it was no longer clients waiting around for statements to come in the mail. That information was at their fingertips. It was readily available to them. In addition, we don't have to wait around for posts from clients anymore. Rather, clients can email into our office. And that sort of really modified our business model because it gave us the ability to be unlimitedly available. We could be unlimited to our clients. They could reach out to us at any time. But that meant we had to structure how and when they were reaching out to us. And I'm talking to you out there, Mr. and Mrs. Financial Advisor, whose clients still have your gosh darn cell phone, who text you, who call you, who ask for a same day, same week appointment, and you still say yes. You circumvent the process 100% of the time. And we needed a way to develop a process around Surge that didn't, because we tell all of our team members, hey, you want that calendar, you want the client appointment, prospect appointment schedule to get screwed up, ask a financial advisor to start booking appointments. Because I'm going to tell you, even with as disciplined as Micah, myself, and my father, Floyd Shalansky is, if a client reaches out to us or a prospect reaches out to us and they want to get in for the appointment, we will make that happen. We will break all of the rules. We'll circumvent all of the processes, and we will get them in outside of our proposed Surge schedules. And what happens when we do that? What happens when we are the ones breaking the process and not following the rules we set up for the rest of the team? The client gets a lousy experience. They get a lousy experience. Now, I'm not talking about the one-offs that come up. Things are going to happen. People are going to die. There's going to be big job changes. Maybe somebody came to town and, they're visiting, especially in Alaska. Half of our book of business lives in the lower 48. The other half is here in the state. And Alaska is a must-see travel destination for most Americans. So a lot of times people will say, hey, I've always wanted to come to Alaska. What a wonderful opportunity this is. I'm going to be in Alaska on these dates, kind of get in for an appointment. And if it falls outside of our Surge or mini Surges, we still make time because it's an exception. There's an exception to every rule, but the exceptions have to be less than 5. We got to quantify it because otherwise every single situation becomes an exception. So we started backing into all of these numbers. What is the revenue? What are the clients? How many appointments? Where's our marketing events? Where's our buffer days? And then we started saying, all right, well, what works for the client? And the reason that our dates are so incredibly adopted, and I'm so humbled and happy to know that so many financial advisors out there, in fact, so much so that a lot of conferences that offer continuing education credits have to reach out to us and say, what is the surge schedule coming up? Because I don't want it to be in conflict with your surge schedule because we're not going to have anyone attend our conference. That's how popular these surge dates are. And these surge dates work for everyone across the board because they serve the client. They serve the client. Our focus is on delivering massive value to clients. And that means building our calendars around when it makes the most sense for client meetings. So why surge? We surge to deliver value to clients. We surge so we can have collective energy amongst our team. We serve so we can be at our highest and best use constantly. The same way that if you look across multiple industries and you see different professionals that are absolutely elite in their business, there's a reason that doctors that are really good at their practice have clinic days and they have surgery days. I mean, they really, really time block the hell out of their calendar. They don't go from clinic to surgery and back and forth inside of the same day because that modality, that brain energy, that muscle is being trained to do one thing at a time and doing it at its highest and its best use. So we started up these surge schedules and have modified and adapted into what we now believe is the perfect surge schedule. We know that we think it's perfect because for the last 3 years, we have not had any massive objections from clients. And we have not had any idleness from team members. So when we first started Surge, we did those focus buffer strategic days. And then about a couple of decades ago, when we started putting Surge in there, it was a little bit more frequent. It was, we were doing it once a quarter for 6 weeks. And the way that it would look like then was we would take the bottom 2 weeks of January, then we would take February, for 8 weeks. And then we would take 2 weeks in March. Now, why would we do that? Because then we could tell clients we had availability every single day every month out of the calendar year. So we would do that, and we would do that every single quarter. And then we realized that, we started getting clients there and said, hey, weren't we just in? Didn't we already discuss this? Or maybe nothing had changed. And so we started listening to the feedback of clients that couched with the fact that they had unlimited availability to our team and unlimited availability to us via email and using all those kind of features and portals and the technology in place. They didn't need to see us as frequently. They needed to see us about 3 times a year. We also realized that they couldn't see us 2 times a year because too much had transpired in that summertime. And we weren't keeping the financial plan on track if we waited that long. So what we do now, the ultimate surge schedule that every single financial advisor who is serious about achieving success is going to implement is this: all of March and half of April. All of March and half of April. When does our April surge end? April 15th. Why? Because for the most part, everyone who has spinning and churning and grinding in finance uses that April 15th as sort of a drop dead date. And clients that don't get information to their tax professionals, clients that don't get information over to us sort of take it as a hiatus. And they say, well, I didn't get it to you in time. So, we'll just kick it out to the fall, being September, October timeframe. So March to April, so we do 6 weeks right now for us. Our goal as Shalansky's is to get us down to 4 weeks. We would still have our team members that are growing their book of business meet for 6 weeks. So we do all of March and half of April. Now, good questions arise that say, hey, listen, what if I don't have that many clients that it's going to take up all of 6 weeks? Well, here's what our good friend Matthew Jarvis does. He doesn't meet with clients on Friday. He doesn't take any Friday appointments. So his appointment schedule looks a little bit different than ours. Ours at Shalansky & Associates, we're going to meet Monday through Friday. We have an enterprise office with a handful of different financial advisors. And yes, we are still hiring financial advisors. I get asked this question a lot, what it takes to join the team and whether or not you have to live in Alaska to make that happen. So if you want more information on that, pop over to Shalansky.com. There's no C in Shalansky, SHILANSKI. And reach out to us. We love to onboard people that whether you're just starting out and you're really looking for that, you want to call it like a prep school, like where to go and learn the absolute best training in the industry. We love that. We love teaching financial advisors how to build and scale their book of business and deliver massive value to clients. Because for us, Shalansky's, it's 100% about the heartbeats. We talk about this all the time in our firm, that we don't have clients, we have heartbeats. We have people that we want to have massive impact on. And there's only so much bandwidth that us Shalansky's are willing to give, because our family, our group chat is the herd. We call ourselves the herd because we all migrate and like to recreate and do things together. We're really, really close, sometimes too close for our spouses, but really close. And that means that we're really hyper-focused when it's time to work. And then when we're not working, we want to play. We know that if life goes as it should, we only get so many sunsets together. We only get so many Christmases. We only get so many birthdays. We only get so many celebrations. And so we're really optimized to make the absolute most out of them. And we're unapologetic about it. And I don't lose a wink of sleep about the amount of time that we take off working, because we love working. We love what we do, and we're able to deliver massive impact and be good stewards for our clients. So ideally, I'd love to get us down to 4. Our advisors normally work 6. All right. Now, what about all of those things that happen in between? What happens when you meet with a prospect on the first week of March and you want to get started on that financial planning? Can they now not meet with you until the next big surge? No. If you're planning your surge dates, what you need to do at the tail end of April is give yourself about 3 buffer days. 3 buffer days at the tail end is for those second appointments, either with prospects, with new clients, or with an existing client that you just got some work you guys got to get done. So I like to give myself those 3 buffer days so that if I do have to meet with somebody a second time during surge, it's got a place to live. And that's also a really great indicator for my team, especially my relationship managers, that they're not stressed out that we don't have enough slots open for surge, that nobody can get in instead of several months. Because remember, I don't make my own appointments. None of our financial advisors in our office make our own appointments. Why? Because we will break every rule we let out. We will do it over and over and over again because we want to serve the client. And we feel that if we don't meet with that client exactly when they asked us to, on the day they asked us to, that client is going to fire us and we will have no more clients. All the other clients will hear about it and we will have 0 clients left. Now, that is an emotional fear, but it is one that resonates with every advisor out there. In fact, if you are in a group sitting, if you're sitting at your office, big shout out, because I know a lot of enterprise offices love to play this podcast as part of their morning ritual. So when that happens, you'll see the advisors in the room get real white or big-eyed and they'll start nodding their head and they're like, yes, if I tell a client no, I'm going to have no more clients. That's how the math works. But that's only emotional math. That's not the reality. So I need to not circumvent the process that my relationship managers have established. I need to design the process and then I have to remove myself because hello, it is me. I am the problem. I will tease with that all day long to make exceptions. If I do have an exception, I'm not allowed to have more than 5. If I have more than 5, we've got an internal extreme accountability policy in our office, and it's a hefty, hefty fine for breaking processes at Shalansky. If you break a process, it is a $10,000 fine that comes out of your runs for doing so. So we take it with a lot of gravitas. Now, are there times that we're going to break that $10,000, we're going to pay the fine and break the process? Sure. But when you put a price tag to it, oh man, you're really going to pause and think about whether or not this is worth 10 grand to do. All right. So then we fast forward into the months to come and we have May, June, July, August, September. All right. What is happening during those times? Schools are let it out. And then we're also getting a lot of people traveling. It's the summertime. This is a less heavy demand for most clients. Most clients are also recreating, enjoying the summer, and they don't necessarily want to come in and talk to their financial advisors, CPAs, attorneys, etc. So we get a little bit of a reprieve, but that doesn't mean that our foot is completely off the gas pedal. This is why this surge schedule is perfect, because for 1 week out of every single month, and I like to do the second week if possible, we are open for appointments. So our relationship managers have exactly how many open slots we're going to take on during that time. And then that's when we have our appointments. And this is a really good placeholder for people that say, hey, I can't wait until the next big surge to get in. I've got this to do. Or maybe you as an advisor have work that you need to do with the client as well. All right, our next big surge is October and half of November, right before Thanksgiving. We kind of dial it back. All right. Why? Why October and November? Because anyone that delayed their taxes is getting them filed. And also, what happens in November and December for most families? Yeah, people start coming back. You start having holidays. You start having, engagements and planning for weddings and new babies, and you start bringing everyone in. So I love to meet with people in October and November. It's a great time to talk about beneficiary designations. It's a great time to talk about estate planning, long-term care, all of those things that sort of, as the years, fall comes around and winter engages, that we're thinking of conclusions, then we want to make sure that we have tied up so that way in January, February, we're hitting the ground running. So I love to have my big surge there. Now, one thing that you need to prepare for if you do this is in December, you need to give yourself ample time slots, because December becomes a really powerful time to work with legacy clients. Legacy clients are individuals that are adult children of current client children. And this is where we have family meetings. In Shalansky & Associates, we have a large conference table that sits about a dozen people, and we'll bring people in. In fact, we just had one last December. We have a great family. All the kids were home for the holidays. We've been planning for years. They've been wanting to bring their adult children in. Brought them in and said, great, let's go through the wills. Let's go through the trust. Let's go through and let's cuss and fuss and have those kind of conversations. So when mom and dad pass, nobody's wondering what happens, what needs to get done, or we see families rip apart because somebody didn't understand the terms. And so we set ground rules. Clients love us to run those meetings because it brings a third party in and allows somebody else to sort of navigate those conversations about what mom and dad have set up. And super powerful, a lot of fun, especially because we have multi-generation. My father, Floyd Shalansky, very active in the business. He is such a freaking powerhouse still to this day. And so the clients have been working with him for, 20 years. The adult children are about my age. So we come in and we cut up, we jive, we go through topics and pull out the areas that they're concerned about. And we're building those lasting relationships with those adult children. And is the goal to make sure that when mom and dad pass, that we retain the relationship? 100%, that's our goal. That is what we want to have happen. However, what drives us to have those family meetings more than that is to make sure the family doesn't fall apart after mom and dad pass. That is our primary goal. That's our primary objective, whether we work with the adult children or we bring them on as legacy clients or not. Our objective is to make sure that family stays intact beyond a generation, beyond the ones that just passed, because families they don't always stay intact after mom and dad pass away, especially when there's money on the table. Especially, guys, you got to be having these conversations. All right. So I backed you into how we do surge. So I gave you the perfect surge schedule. So again, March and half of April. Then you're setting up 1 week during the summer months where you're doing your mini surge because it's 1 week and not 6 weeks. Again, in the fall, we're going to set up for October and half of November. In December, I'm going to have a mini surge, but I'm going to give myself a couple more appointment time slots in case I want to have those family meetings, because those family meetings aren't 30 minutes to an hour. Oftentimes, they're 2 hours or 4 hours, depending on the family. So I want to make sure that I've given myself adequate space for this. All right. We've gotten feedback from people that said, hey, I tried Surge and it didn't work. Okay. Did you try Surge because you tried surging like what I just laid out and said, hey, we're having, 5 to 10 appointments a day? Don't surge like that. If this is your very first time doing it, you wouldn't sign up for a race and do a marathon day one without doing any training before to get there. You have to start off slow with surge. So you need to take your clients and you need to make it as many weeks as you need. So if you're not used to the endurance that it takes to meet with 7 to 9 appointments a day, then you need to start, if your normal cadence is 2, you need to start with 3 appointments a day. Once you've done 3 appointments a day, during the next surge, do 4 appointments a day. Don't go from 2 to 7. Don't do it. It's stupid. That is where people are like, oh, I tried surge. It didn't work. It was so exhausting. Why would you do all of this, etc.? And also surge means when I surge, you surge, we surge. We're all surging together. So all the advisors in our office, we surge at the exact same time. Nobody's allowed to modify those dates. Those dates go out a year in advance. Nobody's allowed to come back and say, hey, I'd like my surge to be longer. I'd like this to happen, etc. The reason is because you are selfishly asking for surge to change for you. And you are not remembering that this organization is not just about you. There are other people in this organization. So we've had an advisor come and say, hey, listen, I've got these sporting events I'd really like to go to. I want to kick my surge out by 2 weeks. So if you guys are going to wrap up mid-April, I'll wrap up at the end of April. No. Why? Because the rest of the team is still in surge. You took your schedule and you asked people to go into overtime on your behalf with no additional benefit for them. And so our relationship managers, they get really, really freaking busy 2 weeks before surge starts because they are sending out client confirmations. They are sending out client requests. They are capturing client questions. For those appointments, they're doing all the prep work that goes into the meeting besides the financial planning. They do not do financial planning in our office. Then the advisor is getting really freaking busy and he is jamming out or she is jamming out on her appointments during surge. But about 2 weeks after we stop meeting with appointments, that is when operations is just swimming violently to try to get their head above water. Because that is when the bulk of the work from what we did in the meeting is starting to really come through. And at first they keep up on it really well, but then they start to get a little bit backlogged. In our office, we really try to get any type of client deliverable out in 24 hours. We always tell our clients 48, but we always try to get it done in 24 hours. However, when we get into surge, that is not the case because it's going to be 5 advisors meeting with 5 different households, giving out 5 different sets of instructions, and operations is about to get really, really freaking busy as they go through that. So if you're so freaking rude to ask your team to extend their surge, guess what you've done? Now they don't get a chance to come out for 2 more weeks after you're done and you've already checked out. So it's extremely rude. I'm very disciplined around surge dates. Don't do it. And especially, you've already heard me tell you that there is no time off during surge. I'm just hiring a brand new kid. He's going to start with us here pretty soon. He said, hey, I'm going to get married in August and I'd really like to take my honeymoon in October, November. And I said, hey, before you have this job, I want to go over our surge schedule and I want to let you know the dates that we would allow for time off and dates we won't allow. And he's like, oh, but your surge is October. That's when I want to take my honeymoon. I said, yeah, I want you to know that, go ahead of time. I want you to know before you're coming into this job, because if that's a problem, that's okay. This is not the right firm for you. These dates are set in stone a year in advance and you are not allowed to ask me for time off during these dates. But if you are amiable to taking it earlier or later, I'm 100% down for that. Go ahead. My PTO package is super generous for employees. And he was like, yeah, let me talk to my fiance. They talked it over, said, nope, that's no problem for us. Love the opportunity. Let's go and hit the ground running. Now, if he comes to me in September, October and asks for that time off, see you later, bye. Because now you violated the rules and you're not operating with integrity. That is our hard discipline around this. And a lot of people chastise me and they say, oh my gosh, you're absolutely ridiculous about this. And I said, yes, because if you're asking me to say yes to you, who am I saying no to? Who am I saying? Where does that line? It gets super, super blurred for me. And what I don't want as a leader in an organization is to decide whose life is more important, not in life and death, but whose life, whose children's band recital is more important, which mom in the hospital is more important, which birth of a child or birthday party is more important. I don't want to have to do that. So don't put me in the position of being the decider. Just abide by the surge rules. That's how it works. So as I took you TPR Nation through why we surge, the I surge, you surge, we surge, we do a lot of content around this because it is so wildly popular with financial advisors. Why? Because it works, but not if you go full steam, not if you run a marathon without ever having done a lap around a track first. You got to start small and start where you're at. Don't replicate. We're big on taking what somebody else is doing that's working and deploying it for us, but it has to be within reason. You can't go to 7 to 9 appointments a day if you're used to having 2. Instead, go from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and then start building that momentum up and give yourself time. Now, another thing that I'll tell you to do as an action item is that when you commit to surge schedule, I surge, you surge, we surge. The whole team is on board with surging, and you have to be committed to it. Every single person in your office. And there are going to be 10,000 reasons why your spouse doesn't like it, why your family doesn't like it, why your relationship managers don't like it, why your ops people hate it. You're going to be super uncomfortable. Give this 2 years to flush out. Give it 2 years because the first year, you got to see what worked. You got to see what didn't work. One of the things that we do here at the Perfect RA is we are in the pursuit of perfection. A lot of the advice that we give you guys here between Matthew Jarvis, Micah Shalansky, and myself is because we've ran it through our practices already. We've had the egg on our face. We've had the employee conversations. We've met with each and every one of those pain points before we roll it out to you and say, hey, this is what worked, or no, this is what didn't work. Don't do this at any cost. Take that advice every single time, every single chance you can, but only from people that actually do this. Only from people that actually do it. Don't take advice from people that don't have experience. Don't go to a conference and say, hey, do you surge? And they say, oh, I tried it one time and it didn't work because blah, blah, blah. I didn't follow the protocols and rules that we here at the Perfect RIA laid out. It doesn't work like that. If you want the same results, you have to do the same work. You have to modify it for where you're at and then start small and then get that endurance up and going. You got to get your reps in and you got to be committed to not quitting on it. It takes time to flush this out. I told you we got 40 years of experience underneath our belt. We are standing on the shoulders of giants, Micah and I. There's a reason that we are so hyper efficient. We will say it every single day that we believe we are the best financial planning firm in the entire country because we care about the heartbeats and the people that we serve. And we take care of our team and we show up all of the time for them. And we ask them to do the work that is hard and is difficult, but it's, by God, they are capable of doing it because they have so much compassion and intelligence and drive inside of them. They just don't realize it yet. TPR Nation, this has been an episode of Worlds to Conquer. I'm Jamie Shalansky. Go find people who share your values and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The Perfect RIA.